Hello, and welcome back to another episode of our podcast. It's me, Kimiko, and I'm here with Cheshire and May today.
Hi, everyone.
It's me, May.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
May.
and today's topic, so I've been obsessed with Epic the musical, I will not lie. And
You got me
that
roped into it, too.
yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
roped Chesh into it. Not May yet. Not yet.
No,
Maybe.
I severely allergic to musicals after being a theater kid. So,
You
No.
projected it from your core.
yeah.
But for anyone that doesn't know, it's about Greek mythology. Well, it's about the Odyssey in specific. But it got me thinking about Greek mythology. So I was like, hey guys, let's do some Greek mythos. And now we made a PowerPoint. We're all covering different things. But are we ready to start?
I'm as ready as I can
Yeah.
be. Got that
Okay.
performance anxiety. I just gotta get
Ah,
through
you'll be
it.
fine.
I'll be fine.
All right, let's go.
Okay, we're gonna start with my topic. I decided to focus my presentation on the birth of the universe and the various different section or deities that ruled prior to the Olympic gods that most people are familiar with today. Can I please go to next slide?
Next slide.
Okay, you're gonna be doing a lot of clicking on this
All
one,
right,
Kiwi.
hold on. Can I do it with my spacebar? Let's see.
Yes.
I can. Okay.
Okay.
Ooh.
So first, we will start with the universe, and the first deity to ever come into being was Chaos. And Chaos is part of a sect of deities called the primordial deities. Now, they are not like how we envision gods today, where they are above humans, but they resemble human form. These are the embodiments of the things that they're about. So chaos, when spoken about, is air. Like, it is not a person, it is literally the air.
I see.
And then
Okay.
after chaos, next please, came Gaia, the earth.
Wow.
And then following Gaia, please click, was Tartaros. Now, most people are familiar with Tartarus, the location, and the difference is that it's RUS rather than ROS. But Tartaros is like the thing. And then go ahead and click next slide, please. And then the last one to be created in existence was Eros, which is the embodiment of love. So very similar to the Eros in Greek mythos.
I see. I see.
And then from
Okay.
these four, if you could please click next, there came Erebus, and Erebus was the embodiment of darkness. Next,
Wow.
please. After Erebus was Nyx. Nyx
I know that
is the
girl.
embodiment of night. And together, these two had two children, Ether and Hemera. And Ether is the embodiment of light, and Hemera is the embodiment of day.
Ooh.
Wow.
Next, please. And then lastly was Oranos, and Oranos was the heavens. And how the Greeks envision this was that if Gaia was a ball, then Oranos was the blanket that covered the ball, and Tartaros was behind the ball
Okay.
and under it, like a pit.
Got
Interesting.
you.
Okay, next slide, please.
Oh, what is this?
Oh,
Aurelia.
yes. And so there were, I think, 12 in total, or 11 in total. So Aurea is not one thing. Aurea is the embodiment of mountains. So for as many mountains as there are as many Aurea. It is the group rather than a thing. And lastly, we have Pontos. And Pontos was the embodiment of the ocean. And these all made up the primordial gods that govern the universe. Next slide, please. So this is a family tree to help better label how these beings came to be. So Chaos and Gaia both birthed these primordial deities without any male embodiment to assist. Like, they're just asexually reproduced, if you will.
I see.
Okay. Word.
And then next, we will focus on the Titans, who were the next group of peoples, and they were the byproduct of Gaia and so the earth and the heavens. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So from Gaia and Uranus came the Titans. So the Titans were not necessarily tied to any one specific thing. They were just children that they had. They were immortal beings. They were not human in any form or fashion. They were essentially gods. And there were 12 of them. And I wrote the names down here, right? But they're not all important to remember. The only one that will really be relevant is Kronos the Wily, who is the youngest of the 12. These are written in birth order, by the way.
Hmm.
And then the next subsection of creatures born from Gaia and Uranus were the Cyclops. So they were designed to look like gods, but they only bore one eye in the center of their forehead. And an interesting depiction that I found when I was looking into these is rather than replacing their two eyes with one eye, some chose to interpret them as having the two like eye sockets or divots, but having the actual eyeball in the center of their forehead.
Interesting.
So that's the picture that I chose for this one. And then they were masters of strength and crafting. They were usually forge masters. And then lastly, we have the Hecatoncheires. And there were 3 Cyclops and 3 Hecatoncheires in total. And the Hecatoncheires were giants who had 50 heads and 100 arms.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. Unfortunately for the Cyclops and the Hecatoncheires, Uranus hated every single one of them.
Wow.
I'm not sure entirely if he was just jealous, but he hated to look at the sight of them, and immediately after they were born, he cast them into Gaia's stomach
Wow.
and didn't ever want them to see the light of day. So if you could please go to the next slide. And then after I read these, you just click away. Okay. But yes,
you did
yes,
this one already, so
I did this one. Thank you. And so, enraged by Uranus's actions with her children, Gaia had turned to her Titaness children and had asked them and pleaded with them to come together to punish their father for his crimes. But none of her children were willing to help assist her except for her youngest, Kronos. And so, Gaia had forged a sickle out of flint and had given it to Kronos, and together they plotted. And the next time that Uranus had ever tried to sleep with Gaia, Kronos had ambushed him and castrated him.
Oh my gosh.
And there are a lot of paintings and depictions of this. It's a very impactful event. But yes, Kronos had castrated Uranus and tossed his member into the earth. And from the blood droplets, there were nymphs, satyrs, minotaurs, all sorts of creatures that were created.
Yeah.
And
Men
then
are
after
so
this,
lucky that we don't punish them like this nowadays.
yes. And so thus begun the rule of the Titans, with Kronos as the head. But unfortunately, Kronos would end up being just like his father.
No.
Oh, damn.
So, Kronos ended up having 6 children from his sister Rhea. But before she gave birth to these children, Kronos was told by both Gaia and Uranus that there was a prophecy that he would be overthrown by one of his children, by one of his sons. And so, in an effort to save himself, Kronos would eat each of the children that Rhea had birthed the minute they were birthed. So, starting with the first child, we have Hestia, so goddess of the hearth.
Look at her.
And then, secondly, we have Demeter, goddess of the seasons. And then she too was eaten.
Oh, wait, I thought
And
it was
then
sun.
Huh?
I thought it was the sun.
Sun, but also the seasons. That's what she's primarily known
No,
for.
no. I meant like since they're daughters.
Oh no, he didn't care. No, he wanted them all gone.
Oh.
He wanted them all gone. And third was Hera, goddess of the sky. Fourth was Hades, god of the underworld. Fifth was Poseidon, god of the sea. And sixth was Zeus, god of the sky. But he would not end up being eaten, for Rhea, right before his birth, had pleaded with her mother to find a way to keep him from being eaten. And so they devised that he would be born on the mountain of Crete, and in his place, Rhea would swaddle a boulder and hand it to Kronos, and he would eat the boulder, thinking it was his son.
Okay.
Damn.
Okay.
Stupid.
Next slide. So Zeus was raised on Crete all this time, and I believe he knew of this prophecy. Later, he would end up coming back to protests against Kronos, and would start what would be called the Titanomachia, or the 10-year war. So firstly, Zeus would free the Cyclops and the Hecatoncheires from their prison, because immediately after Uranus had witnessed the birth of those two, he cast them into Tartarus, forever to never see the light of day. And so he freed them from this imprisonment.
Let's go.
And then Kronos, along with the rest of the primordial gods, would fight Zeus and the Hecatoncheires and the Cyclops. And the only Titans who never sided with Kronos were Themis and her son Prometheus. And you guys may recall Prometheus from the story of how man got fire.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so they battled for 10 long years, neither side seeming to give up. But in that last year, the Cyclops, with their powers and their talents, had forged Zeus his own lightning bolts, his primary weapon. And the Hecatoncheires, with their great strength, had ended up burying the primordial gods and Kronos and the other Titans in rubble. And thus ended the 10-year war. Zeus would later go to imprison all of these Titans in Tartarus, and would leave the Hecatoncheires to guard them at the gates, because they theorized that Tartarus was locked by bronze gates.
Let's see.
And then, once the war was over, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades would draw lots to decide who would rule what dominion. And it ended up coming out that Zeus would rule the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. And unfortunately for Hades, he does not count as an Olympian god because he has never stepped foot in Olympus.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. And so
Justice for
lastly,
Hades.
we have the 12 Olympian gods. Now, the ones I hadn't named prior were all to be born from Zeus. So firstly, we have Hephaestus, god of the forge, Demeter, goddess of the seasons, Hera, goddess of the sky and wife of Zeus, Hermes, or no, not supposed to be god of the underworld, that's supposed to be god of prophecy, Poseidon, god of the sea, Zeus, god of the sky, Aphrodite, goddess of love. And spoiler alert, fun fact, remember when I said that Uranus had his member chopped off and castrated?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that member, it landed in the ocean, and it sailed away to a different island and turned into sea foam, and that sea foam birthed Aphrodite.
Oh, yes. The classic story.
Yep. We have Apollo, the god of prophecy, Ares, the god of war and civil order, ironically enough, Artemis, goddess of the hunt, Athena, goddess of wisdom, and Dionysus, god of wine. And these 12 make up the Olympian gods that we're most known for today.
I like how one of them is god of wine. Like, yeah, we need to add wine somewhere in there.
Well, he's got like 5. He's god of wine, festivities, chaos, and I think parties.
And parties.
So god of all things fun.
Oh yeah.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
All right.
I learned so much. Thank you.
All right. That means I'm up next with the Fates. Yeah, I guess you can go to the next slide. Otherwise known as the Moirai. I literally looked up how to pronounce it before this, and I still fucked it up. So
it's okay.
Go me. So the Fates are daughters of Nyx that preside over the gods, like not the like primordial gods, but like the everyone under the like primordial gods. And according to like tradition and stories and like ancient Greek beliefs, they appear 3 nights after a child's birth to determine the course of its life, essentially. And so Clotho, the youngest of the sisters, presided over the moment in which we are born, and held a distaff in her hand. Look, I didn't look up how to pronounce either of the other two names. Anyway, Lachesis spun out all the events and actions of our life, and Atropos, the eldest of the three, cut the thread of human life with a pair of scissors. So, yeah, everything is destiny in ancient Greek mythology. It is all planned out ahead of time, and there's nothing that you can do to change it ever. It was all meant to happen.
So many
Next-
myths like to try and avoid fate, and then it always bites them in the butt later.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Next slide. Okay, yeah, okay, wait, not next slide. This is the right slide. So first we'll talk about Clotho, aka the spinner. So she would spin the thread of life from her distaff onto her spindle, and a distaff is just like a fiber holding thingy that you use to spin fiber into thread.
Mhm.
That's probably obvious.
A
Anyway,
loom?
it's
Oh,
different from
spindle. I
loom.
see it. Okay.
Yeah. So she decided when a person was born, and she decided that for both deities and mortals. She decided when deities or mortals were to be saved. So let's say like a god dies, yeah, they can decide whether, or like is about to die, they can decide whether or not they're gonna be saved or not and continue to like live. Oh, I forgot to read the last four words. Or put to death. Yeah, they also decided when you were put to death. So like don't piss them off. And if you go to the next slide, there's a little story about Clotho. So as one of the three fates, she participated in creating the alphabet with Hermes, forced the goddess Aphrodite into making love with other gods, weakened the monster Typhon with poison fruit, persuaded Zeus to kill Asclepius with a bolt of lightning, and aided the deities in their war with the giants by killing Agrius and Thoas with bronze clubs. So she's either a girl boss or like really controversial, depending on your
Or
point of view.
petty.
Wow.
Or petty. She's like also like the main fate. Like all of the stories involving the fates like essentially center around either all three of them as a unit or just Clotho. There's not really a lot of stories with the other sisters, just the other sisters. So if we go to the next slide, we have Lachesis. Lachesis. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. The allotter. So she measured the thread of life that was spun from Clotho's hands and allotted each person, and allotted like a certain amount of life to each person with her measuring rod. So she decided how long you got to live for. So this is really like, this is for real, like it was all part of God's plan type of stuff. Like it was literally part of their plan. And yeah, she decided how much life was to be allowed for each person, and she was also the decider of their fate. So not only like how long they lived or died, but like essentially what was gonna be like their destiny. Yeah, so not only whether or not they like lived or died. Well, I mean, like I guess like every mortal dies, but she decided like essentially their destiny. So like she decided that Hercules was going to be Hercules, and she decided that Odysseus was going to do the Odyssey and stuff like that. So I guess like she really had it out for you if she made you like a pig farmer or something. Not that cool, but important. And next slide, please. And so this is just a little tidbit. It was said that Lachesis would appear to souls who had just died, and she would present them with a lot of new lives that they could choose from. So some lives were human lives, some were animal lives, and once a dead soul chose their lot, she would send them to reincarnate into the new lives that they had chosen. Um, this assuming that they're eligible for reincarnation. There's some prerequisites in order to be eligible for that. So,
You gotta fill out a form when you die.
yeah.
Submit it.
And now we move on to the last sister, Atropos. She was the cutter of the thread of life. She chose the manner of each person's death, and when their time had come, she would cut their life thread with her abhorred shears.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, so she is like, uh, for lack of a better word, the goddess of death, I guess, if you want to call her something dramatic like that. Um, but yeah, she has the least amount of like lore behind her, at least from what I could find. Like, there's not much about Atropos herself, but you know, she is called the inevitable because death is always there waiting. Um, and Atropos and her sisters were the decider of fates ultimately. The other gods were merely enforcers of the fates that they decided.
Mhm. They were
And
the bosses.
yes, they were the bosses. And then like the next three slides are just like art depicting the fates that I thought were really cool. So eat that
Look at
up.
them. Look at them. Oh my gosh.
I
So
mean it
cool.
up.
They
Like
look
the
so
really old
cool.
ones.
Are
The ones
these the
that look like they're
ones
basically undead.
that, like in Hercules, the movie, they only had one eyeball to share?
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, very nice.
But yeah,
All right. Well, thank you.
yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So that maze is basically beginning of life, predetermined. And then if you're just a regular mortal, you know, one day your thread's gonna get cut. So we're gonna show you the route to the underworld, or I'm gonna show you. All right. So if you had a peaceful death, long life, it was just your time, then Thanatos would come for you, who's basically the Grim Reaper. He would just come pick you up, say, "It's time to go." But also, if you were on like a battlefield, it was something violent, you got murdered, then the Keres would come for you. And those, a lot of them are depicted like harpies, maybe vultures, where they would literally just fly around the battlefield and pick up your dead body and eat it, basically. um I know if gods were involved in the war, then they would like shield you from the kitties. They're like, no, not yet. But they wouldn't kill you themselves. They would just be like ready to eat your remains. And then your soul would get ripped to the underworld.
That's awesome.
Hmm. And then Hermes would guide you there. He's like, here's the delivery to Charon, who is the ferryman. So traditionally, if you had like a normal funeral, then they would put a coin in your mouth so that you could pay the toll, because it did cost one coin. I forget the exact like what the currency was, but it was literally like a penny. um and then if you didn't have it, Charon wouldn't take you. But if you did, you would go down the river Styx. Um so let's see. If you couldn't pay the toll, then Hecate would bring you back to the world where you would roam as a ghost for 100 years. And then after you do your 100 years, you could come back down and ride for free. So make sure you have money to pay the toll.
I guess you could watch like history being made for 100 years.
Yeah. Otherwise, if everything went normal, you paid the toll, you would go down the river Styx, and you would pass Cerberus, who guards the doors to the underworld. Or further down, I should say. And then you get judged by the three judges. You got Minos, who determines where you're gonna go, and I'll show you the different options in a second. But basically, you could either go to their version of heaven, hell, or a glorious, like, better heaven.
Better heaven.
Better heaven plus, if you will. You had Rhadamanthus, who would tell you your punishment or reward after you've been judged. And then Asius, who made sure everything was just and fair and made sure everything is carried out properly, that you do get your punishment or reward. I didn't see what kind of rewards you get. I was just like, what you got, like, I don't know, a sticker book? You did a good job. No. But yeah. After you got judged, then these are the three options. Say you lived a normal life. You were mostly unproblematic. Then you'd go to the Asphodel Meadows, where you would live there for 1,000 years. And when that came up, you would drink from the river Lethe, I think. And that would wash you of all your memories, and your soul would go back to Earth, and you would do it all again. So just 100 or 1,000 years. And then if you were a good soul, a good noodle, you would go to Elysium. And basically, like I said, heaven plus. It's paradise. They're doing parties, they're having festivals, they're having a great time. And then there was a premium plus called the Isle of the Blessed.
Premium Plus?
Yeah.
Wait, I thought these were one region. I didn't realize they were two separate Premium Pluses.
Premium Plus is within Elysium, but this is exclusively for heroes. So, like Achilles went here, Odysseus goes here.
Like Perseus, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I believe in Elysium, you can choose to reincarnate. You don't have to reincarnate, which I believe a lot of them do not reincarnate. Because they're like, why go through that again, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
And the last one is Tartarus, which you were a bad noodle. You actually displeased the gods. I think it's pretty hard to get into Tartarus. Like, you have to be really shitty.
Or just be ugly, I guess, according to Orano. So you just have to have 50 heads and they just send you straight there, no questions asked.
But when you're here, you get the punishment that Hades decides for you. He decides it personally. And sometimes it has to do, well, usually it has something to do with what you did wrong to get in there in the first place. But yeah, that's the route to the underworld, so now y'all know. Pay your toll.
Sisyphus is in there. You know that guy? Y'all remember that guy?
Yeah.
Dang.
So yeah, remember, pay your toll and live a decent life at least, or be a hero. I don't know how you can be a hero. Be a hero.
The fates decide whether you even get to go to the Isle of the Blessed, really, because they decide whether you're a hero.
True.
So true.
This is a scam, guys. This is a scam. There's no guarantee of anything.
Don't even try. Your fate's already decided.
Oh my god. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's my last slide. So, with that, there you go. You learned some Greek mythos.
Thank you, thank
Hell
you.
yeah.
I will take this with me to the afterlife if this may be what happens. Always gotta prepare for anything.
There is like more like niche sections of the underworld. Like if you are really sorrowful about something that happened, then you land in like I forgot the name. I should have written it down, but it's like a forest in the underworld where you just mourn and weep.
Wow, depressing.
But yeah, there are some niche sections in here, but for the most part, this is one of the three you're going to.
Where do you think y'all are going?
You put me in the Asphodel Meadows, I'll just sit there, like,
Yeah.
patiently waiting, comfy cozy, unless they give me some cool reincarnation plan.
It's so true. Yeah,
Yep.
I'll go for Asphodel Meadows as well.
Yeah, probably the same.
Great. We're all mediocre.
Excellent. That's what the fates decided for us.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, any other fun tidbits before we head out?
Zeus birthed people out of his head. I don't remember who. There
Oh
were
Athena.
several.
yeah, it was Athena.
Athena.
Which is crazy
That was
because I
cool.
think he asked Hephaestus to like just put an axe to his head and take it out.
Yeah.
He also had like 5 wives before he ended up with Hera. I don't remember the names of it, but it was like immediately after the Titan War. He married like 5 different women and had various children with them that were minorly relevant to Greek mythos, and then landed on Hera at the end of it. And I think all those women got really jealous about it and then ended up dying.
Oh, well.
That's Zeus for you, man.
Biggest fuckboy.
Good.
He
Oh
is.
yeah, fun fact about underworld lore. Orpheus, I think that's who it was. He went down to the underworld to get back his love. I don't think they were married yet, so just his love. And Hades was like, or he pleaded to Hades and Persephone, and they were like, okay, if you can bring her back without looking at her face, then her soul will come back to life. And then Orpheus traveled back up to the underworld or out of the underworld, and right as he hit the threshold, he looked back to make sure his love was there. And she did not pass the threshold, so her body got ripped back down to the underworld.
God damn.
Mm-hmm.
People just gotta trust the process, and they didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, so R.I.P.
He had one job.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a lesson about how you shouldn't be anxious and you should just trust. And I'm like
That's easier said than done, I'll be honest.
true. All right. Well, I think that's it. I hope you guys learned some things. I learned some things. And we'll be back whenever we're back with who knows
That
what
sounds
we're
good
going to
to
talk
me.
about. All right. Like, comment, subscribe. Right now, me and May are playing Yakuza 0, and
Yeah.
when this is out, Chesh and Eve are playing Split Fiction.
Yes, it's so much fun. Please watch our content. We're having a blast with the game right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. And
yeah.
we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.